And I'm going to read off the bio. All right. Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Career Pulse Podcast. I'm your host, Hayward Crawford. Career Pulse Podcast is your vital sign for career and business from everyday go-getters like you. This is season 3, episode 6 of the quarantine episodes. Hope everybody's staying safe out there, social distancing, doing what they have to do, and definitely want to stay safe. Now, I'm here with the one and only Tisha Robinson-Daly. Tisha, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, doing all right. Let me go ahead and read off who we have in the building right now. So, Tisha is a writer and director from Maryland who lives in a cozy old house filled with books in the suburb outside of Philadelphia. Tisha has written and directed and produced 5 short films that have made their rounds through the film festival circuit. And she's also a Sundance Institute and Knight Foundation Fellow and a Stowe Story Labs alum. And she's also a recipient of the 2018 and 2019 Sundance Knight Foundation production grant, for which her first narrative feature, High, which provides an intimate glimpse into the lives of telecommunication tower climbers, was released. She was invited to the 2020 Stowe Story Labs Writer Retreat and is the recipient of a 2020 NEA, stand for the National Endowment for the Arts, grant for High. She's also the writer, director, and producer of the episodic series High Climber Stories, and which is a 12-episode series that premieres monthly on Vimeo, Facebook, Instagram TV, and now streaming on the higher than 7 networks. Everybody, welcome Tisha Robinson-Daly. How's it going?
Thank you. I'm well. How are you?
Good. I know it's been a while. I think when we met at the Sundance, I know the Sundance Institute, they had a creative producing workshop, I believe.
Right.
Right?
That's right. Yep, in Detroit.
In Detroit, yep, hometown of mine. So the campus was called CCS, which is a very prestigious, as far as they're known as being one of the top Detroit schools in arts. So they're always been sort of that collective of Detroit art, film, that sort of stuff. So that must have been what, 2017 or?
I think it was 2018.
2018.
Yeah, I think 2018.
Yep, you're correct. All right. So even back then, I told her I wanted to get her on the podcast, and there's been some moving and shaking, but I finally was able to get her. So let's just sort of dive right in, Tisha. Okay. So tell us a little bit about, what do you typically tell people, when they ask you what you do?
I think I tell people I'm a writer. But I'm really a tower climber advocate, and it's strange because that sort of came after getting involved with the film, creating the film. But I really look to myself as being an advocate for tower climbers, and it's something that it's a hat that I put on every day, and I think that that's what I do along with write and make films, and I hope to continue in that vein.
Okay, great. And tell us about your humble beginnings growing up in Maryland. Was that near Baltimore or just a different area?
No, I grew up in a suburb about 30 miles outside of the city.
Okay.
And it's, I think, very, I don't want to say boring or normal, but I lived in a house with my mom, my dad, and my sister. My dad worked on the roads. He was gone a lot. My mom was sick and stayed at home. So, yeah, it was nice to have someone there all the time. I did miss my dad, who worked to provide for us since my mom was sick. And my sister's 8 years older than me. So it's kind of like we're both only children, because I feel like she was doing her own thing. And then I came along 8 years later. And so we sort of are like 2 different kids to our parents. So I mean, very, I guess, normal upbringing. Nothing exciting.
Awesome. So tell us about how you first stumbled into filmmaking early on, and of course your path leading to the 5 short films you have under your belt as director producer.
So I've always been a writer. I think, like I said, like a very normal but low-key family life. I spent a lot of time alone. I spent a lot of time, I think, as a child, growing up probably a little faster than I wanted to, just because I did have a sick mom she has lupus. And so it was like, my mother was really sick when I was a child.
Okay.
So I spent a lot of time reading and writing. And I wrote all sorts of things. And so my first film was called Whoever Told You It Was Okay to Dream Anyway. And it's based off of an actor who has a family and wants to pursue acting, but he also has sort of the challenges of, what do I do? Do I pursue my dream, or do I work a 9 to 5 and support my family? Like, that's what we're told we're supposed to do. And it sort of explores this, the topic of dreams and who told us it was okay to really pursue them. And is it something that we should do? Like, or are we bound by duty and responsibility? And that was my first film, and it was based loosely off of like my own life. Like I got married, and I was dating I was dating and I got married to someone who became an actor and who was following that path. And yet we were married and we had bills and we had responsibilities. And it was sort of like me being like, okay, he like, quit a really great job, ran off to New York City to Stella Adler Conservatory to study acting. And it was like, well,
and you're still in Maryland, right? Or were you in Philly?
He's from New York.
Okay.
And I am from Maryland. And so we got married. We were living in Delaware at the time. But he like left and went to Manhattan for 2 years. And it was really hard, and it was really a challenge. And I spent many nights thinking just that, like, do we follow our dreams? Do we work a 9 to 5? Like, what do we do? And so that's where the film came from. And I'm really proud of that film. It didn't really go anywhere, but it was probably the most life-changing event as far as from an artist standpoint, because I still talk to so many people that were involved in the making of that film. My father, who has since passed away, came to the set of that film and watched me direct this film. And there's just so much that I learned from that experience. And I knew then, the day that we wrapped, we shot it in 3 days, I knew, like, there's nothing else I'm going to do.
Wow. That was where the light bulb went off.
It really was it. That was it.
Awesome. Now, as far as the other films, like, how did that film lead to the other 4? Was that kind of a learning process? I mean, I don't know how much you want to dive into those, or,
it was definitely a learning process. Like, we shot on a really great camera, the Red camera, and I had a really big crew for my first film, and we had, numerous locations. I spent a fortune of my own money. And so I think that film taught me really that if I want to be an artist, I can't spend that much money on every production. So it really took me back to thinking about, how am I going to create in a more realistic way, and be an independent artist and still be able to pursue this. So when I finished that film, there was a couple years that went by that I wrote a lot, but I didn't shoot anything, because I just really wasn't sure, like, how am I going to make this work with having a family? It was still only the 2 of us, but still, being a couple, he's pursuing acting, I'm making films, like, we're taking money out of our savings account to like fund these projects, like, what makes the most sense? So I wrote the whole time, but it wasn't until it was, oh my goodness, it was like 7 years went by before I made it.
That's still a lot of content. Some people be like, let 7 years go by and do nothing at all. So
they do nothing at all, right?
Writing.
Yeah, like, I kept writing. Yeah, I wrote a novel. Wow. I wrote another feature film that I really want to pursue after high. Like, I really kept writing, and I kept really working on that craft. And then I shot Spare, which is really a very touching film to me. It's based off of a memory I have of myself and my father. And I shot this after my father had passed away, with an amazing cinematographer, a really small crew, in one location with 2 actors. And we shot on film versus digital, and it's just this hauntingly beautiful sort of raw film about 2 people that really love each other but are so detached from each other that there's really not a lot said. You have to see it. Like, I'll have to send it to you.
Yeah,
It's a
definitely.
really beautiful film. It's a beautiful, beautiful film,
Yeah.
about a beautiful relationship between a daughter and her father.
Okay. Yeah, definitely send it to me. I'll keep it watching. Awesome. So, tell us about, for people not familiar with the Sundance Institute, obviously everyone's aware of the Sundance Festival. A lot of people aren't aware of the labs. So tell us a little bit about the Sundance Institute, along with the Knight Foundation. A lot of people in the Detroit area are familiar with the Knight Foundation. And just kind of give us some background for others about that program and the resources, available for filmmakers who are, might be thinking about applying.
Okay, so for me, many people may not know that Sundance and the Knight Foundation, they have satellite cities that they offer different intensives and different workshops. So for me, I had applied to the Stowe Story Labs in Vermont, and I got accepted, and I went to Vermont for a week. And it was an amazing experience. It's a great writing retreat. But I had also applied to the Sundance Intensive that was coming to Philadelphia. So basically, Sundance was coming for one day in Philly. They were going to have a facilitator, and they were going to pick, I don't remember if it was 7 of us. I think it was 7 of us, to come for the day and to really workshop our scripts. And so I had applied before I went to Stowe and didn't know whether I was going to get in or not. And then I came back from Stowe on a high because it was amazing. And then I got the news that I was accepted and I was going to be going to the Sundance Intensive. So it was really an amazing experience. It was, like I said, one day. Our facilitator was Catherine Dykeman, who is a filmmaker, but she's also a film professor at Columbia University.
Okay.
She's amazing, and we still stay in contact. I consider her a mentor. She's an amazing human, but then also just really smart and thoughtful with her critique and her advice. So the intensive was really great. I walked away from it feeling really good. I didn't really know what it was going to lead to, or what it was going to mean for me, for my film. I just knew that it was a really great day that felt really good, and I was grateful for. After the intensive, I got a email from Shira Rockowitz, who is the director of the feature film program at Sundance, asking me if I would write a blog for Sundance Institute regarding my experience at the intensive. So again, I was so grateful, and I thought that was amazing, and I did that. So I wrote the blog entry about my experience that day and what it meant to me and my script. About a month went by after that, and I received another email from Sundance saying, we have this program with the Knight Foundation. You can apply. We would like you to apply. It's a fellowship. So I applied, and surprisingly to me, I got it. And the fellowship meant that I was going to be flown out to the Sundance Festival for 7 days, and that I would go with my script. I would go to industry meetings with producers there and pitch high to industry professionals. So I did that. I went to Sundance for 7 days.
What was that experience like?
Oh my goodness. It is honestly another world. It's another world in the sense that you're just sort of like canoodling with, I remember we went to Yardi, we had tickets to go see Yardi, which was Idris Elba's film. And he was there to talk prior to the screening, and then we could ask questions after. And it was just like, that was just like a normal thing. Like, you're walking down the street and Common's like right there at the like coffee shop on the corner. And it was just this really you're just walking by and there's like Tim Robbins, who's like a giant. He's so tall and like huge. And
Yeah, that guy's like 6'4".
he's so tall. And it was just like, you're in this world where everything just seems very normal. People are just sort of walking by.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really an amazing experience.
And not on top of that, but not only is it like the experience mentally,
yeah.
but also the altitude. It probably has something to do with
oh my goodness.
on a mountain.
It was so cold and we were so like, we had headaches and like digestive issues. Like it was really, the altitude really is.
So that contributed to the
high. Yeah.
lack of O2.
Yes, exactly. But it was really cool. It was a super experience. I really cannot wait to go back with my film.
Awesome. That's definitely on my bucket list as well.
Yes, me too.
Definitely. So tell us about the captivating story behind the mission that led to the High Climbers 12-episode series. Now, we met 2 years ago at the Sundance creative producing in Detroit. I know at the time, I think you had just produced a few episodes. This may have been summer 2018. So I remember you were telling me about it. We were at the Afterglow, and it's led to 12 whole episodes. So kind of tell us about how that came about and where you're at now with it.
Well, I found that when I was going to different places like Stowe or Sundance, and I was pitching the film, which is a narrative feature, people had so many questions regarding this world that people were like, what? Like there's these people climb these towers and they're dying, they're falling, they're dying these horrific deaths. Like people were so fascinated with this world that is really mysterious, that it's so sort of like this hidden world that no one knows about. And so I really thought about that and thought, not only do I want to make this film to, entertain people, but I want to educate people. And I want to advocate for these men and women who are dying rapidly. They're dying for us to have this technology all the time, for us to Instagram and TikTok and do all this stuff. There's men and women who are losing their life. Wow. And so this series allows me to delve into, in a very short time frame, in a very quick, so people have time to watch, to delve into some of the issues that climbers deal with, like the road and road accidents, which is something that no one really talks about, but climbers lose their life working really long hours and then getting behind the wheel and accidents. And so the series really allows me to just sort of address things that are really common within the community that are just unfamiliar to society.
Man, that's a great point. Because I could tell that was just a passion project, and it's still going strong with that. So tell us a little bit also about the journey of directing your very first, narrative feature film, High. Congratulations on that. And kind of give us a sort of idea of that journey, directing your first feature.
Well, I'm telling you, it's still a journey. Like I'm still on that journey because the film's not made. Like we're still working. I have recently attached a producer, which is amazing to me. I was asked to, or given some insight to apply for another grant with Sundance, which I'm going to do. And like I said, I recently received a grant from the NEA. So I feel really confident. Like I'm ready to get this film made. I'm ready to, I made some really great contacts when I was at Sundance and also when I was in Detroit. We had breakfast with two producers, one of which reached out to me after I came back. And she was very interested in the film, the concept. So I'm excited to reach out to her soon with a finished edit. I feel really confident in the edit that I have now.
And the narrative feature, is this the narrative? Are you going to be screenwriting the whole screenplay?
I have I wrote the whole thing.
Awesome. So give me, just maybe for the audience, give us a little tease. If you had to name two movies, it was like, this is like Vertical Limit meets Cliffhanger meets.
No, that's so funny. Yeah.
127 hours. I don't know. Just
okay, so I would say this is like from like a cinematic standpoint. I'm saying like Vertical Limit, Everest, like from a cinematic, like wow, the altitude, the height. But when I think of sort of the internal struggle and the sort of isolation and loneliness, I'm thinking Brokeback Mountain. But I'm also thinking like South Pole, like, you know, a father who has to take care of their daughter. Like there's so many films that I feel like Manchester by the Sea, it's sort of also this sort of down and out, you know, protagonist who has to make a choice. So it's sort of similar to, it's a very moody, dark, character-driven drama.
Interesting. Okay, well, that definitely painted the picture, and also for our audience as well. Now, tell me, Tisha, about some of your mentors, whether they're still living or past, you know, personal and professional, and how they've influenced you.
So I want to say first and foremost, I think my dad has influenced me the most. Like I said, he was on the set of my first film, and he genuinely believed there was nothing I couldn't do. And so even when I feel depleted and like this is an insurmountable task getting this film made, I think back to my dad. And when I made the first film, we had a production crew there recording us making the film, and one of the cameramen asked my father, like, what do you think of your daughter making this film? And my dad said, you know, as of her father, I could have discouraged her. I could have told her, like, you don't want to waste your time or your money in this, but this was her dream. So why would I discourage her from following her dream? It was so beautiful. And luckily I still have that footage and I watch it all the time. So my dad, absolutely, hands down. But then I think that, like, I have learned so much from even this climbing community. Like, there's climbers that I've met, like, while making this film, while researching this film, who have really been, like, sounding boards to me and have really been, like, just this group of decent human beings that have really, like, taught me what it means to, like, sacrifice and what it means to sort of, like, put yourself on the edge. And so I feel like I've learned so much from this community, like, that they probably don't even realize. Like, they have taught me, like, I'm here to, like, you know, help them, but in reality I feel like they have helped me in a way that I can't even really express. I still have my mentors at Sundance, which I'm in contact with, who just continue to be there. Like, I send an email, they respond. I make a call, they answer. That's just hard to find that. You know, it's really hard to find that sort of like support nowadays, I think.
Awesome. And yeah, because everybody doesn't have it. So
no, it's really hard. Yeah.
So quick lightning round. Got 3 of them. Any favorite books? Recommend maybe the current book you're reading.
I just finished Normal People, which is an Irish. I really wish I could remember her name. I'm sorry, I can't think of her name. But the book is titled Normal People, and I think they actually have a series of that on Hulu. I'm starting True Grit, but I'm reading The Wizard of Oz with my daughter, and we love that. So I'm all over the place, but I have a reading partner, and we each pick a book.
Now that's a True Grit from the Jeff Bridges and Matt Damon.
Yes. So I picked Normal People. We read that, and he picked True Grit. So that's our next book. So I'll let you know how that goes.
Awesome. 1 or 2 top inspirational films.
Oh, goodness. You know what? I love John Cassavetes, and I love his films because he deals with, like, raw, like, human behavior. So I feel like when I was working on High, like, I watched, like, A Woman Under the Influence a million times just because just, like, sort of like this raw, sort of like unfiltered human breakdown is really inspiring to me. And I feel like filmmakers who aren't scared to sort of let things be ugly, I appreciate that, and I love that. So, like, I watch a lot of old films. I watch a lot of Cassavetes' work.
What was the name of that the Cassavetes one? The first one?
It's A Woman Under the Influence.
Woman Under the Influence. What year was that? Or era?
1976.
Okay. Yeah, I'm familiar with the filmmaker. I've seen his name.
He's amazing. Yeah. So, but I've watched Brokeback Mountain a bunch of times recently. That's another reason why, like, when you said, like, what films, I've watched that a bunch because it really sort of like the loneliness of that film is really, it's inspiring to me too. Like whenever a filmmaker is willing to take like a topic that's sort of like maybe taboo to some people, or when that film was made, it was sort of taboo to some people. And whenever someone is strong to stand up and say like, there's no reason we shouldn't be making this film, I really admire and respect that. But then like something like Queen and Slim, like I watched that and walked away feeling really inspired and really strong.
Yeah.
So I'm really all over the place. I have like an extensive DVD collection, and I just sort of, yeah, there's so many. I can't really, it's hard.
I'm glad I'm still not the only one.
Yeah, I still have so many DVDs.
I feel like they're going to make a comeback for a couple reasons.
They're going to come back.
They're going to come back because at the end of the day, if you go to YouTube, you can't find all that behind the scenes featurette.
No.
Documentary, all that stuff.
Exactly.
And then the director's commentary. That's not around.
None of that.
So, yeah, the DVDs is really the golden gem. I think when people get tired of binge watching so much, or at least the cinephiles, it's like, yeah, the DVDs are where the gems are at. And they're like 99 cents now. So
I know.
Yeah. So what are finally, iPhone or Android?
I have both.
Team iPhone. Alrighty.
Yeah.
All right.
Team iPhone.
So what were take us, Tisha, to maybe what were some of your biggest setbacks or failures? I know you mentioned about, your first film. You definitely maybe spent a little more money, spent a little more time than you expected, kind of bump your head. And what were the failures, and maybe how faith maybe played a role in learning from that and getting you through those dark times? What were some setbacks you had to deal with?
There's so many. I mean, I've had so many setbacks. Like I said, I wrote a novel. I submitted to agents for representation to get it published, was rejected. I submitted to Sundance a million times, rejected.
When did you get in? What number did you?
Oh my goodness, I don't know. I stopped counting. I have no idea what number it was. But I think that's really the key, is that it really does take a no to get you to a yes, and you have to continue to persist through all of that. I guess one thing that I regret is that I do have a habit of sort of wallowing in it. So like I'll get like kicked down, and I'll take like a month or two to sort of like tend to my wounds, instead of bouncing right back up like let's go. And so that I wish I could change, is that I wish that I was more steadfast and sort of like get up and just brush myself off and go. I've had so many rejections, I can't even tell you, and I will continue to get rejections. And I think that's sort of the nature. But I think that like what changed for me was I got rejections on a lot of other things that I shelved and I walked away from. I've been rejected with High before, but I've never walked away from it, because I really feel that when you find a project that really speaks to your soul and you feel like there's just no way that you cannot make it, I think that it forces you to persist. Like, I feel like this is my film to make. There's never been a film or any media made in this world of tower climbers. And so I feel like it's my film to make, and that's why like I get up when I'm knocked down. Yeah,
and just own that lane. Like 2 years later, I know you're still, full steam ahead on that mission. I love it.
Right, exactly.
So tell us a little bit about, I guess, the High Climbers brand as a whole, because I know, are you still going to be continuing, maybe doing like another series of episodes as far as the interviews, or are you just focusing just on the feature film moving forward? Looking beyond.
So we actually I'm still working on the climber story. So we're doing a little spin-off special right now, and I had a meeting this morning with my partner regarding that. We are doing a spin-off because I want the community to see that like people do see you. And so that's my hashtag, is can you see them now? I want the community to realize that yes, they're really like, it's an underappreciated job. Climbers die, national news doesn't cover it. They lose their life, their families like have nothing. I want them to know that people do see them and people do care and people are getting involved. And there are so many people who I've met on my journey to make this film who have been instrumental in me progressing. So there's I don't know, I think there's 11 or 12 people, some in the industry, some not, who have been kind enough to let me interview them and for them to tell like how they heard about High and why they have decided to get involved. And so that's the new special that we are going to be airing, the first episode by the end of this month. And then I think there's 4 of them. So there'll be one in July, August, September, and October.
All right, and what's the website and where we can find that information?
It's www.highthemovement.com.
www.highthemovement.com?
Yes, highthemovement.com. And so they will air there along with on Vimeo, Instagram, and Facebook.
Okay.
But I'm really excited because I want the community to see, like, people do see you. People, I mean, like yourself. I met you. We talked briefly about this, and you're having me on your podcast, which is giving me, it's giving the community exposure, which is what needs to happen for there to be change. So thank you for giving me a platform to be able to talk about this and, you know, spread the word to maybe someone who has known nothing about tower climbers and what they do for us.
Yes, that's amazing. That's yeah, I could definitely see the movement building slowly but surely.
Yes.
Now tell us a little bit about, I mean, obviously this, you know, address a big elephant in the room. Obviously, since 2018, a lot of things changed in this country. COVID-19, obviously a lot of social injustice that's really been, you know, pretty systemic in America for a long time, but now it's just really starting to come out in a different way. But just tell us just a little bit about maybe how this recent crisis, how it's shaped you, you know, in some ways for the better. You know, what are some lessons we can learn maybe along the way, you know, in these quarantine times we're in?
Well, I will say, like, there's 2 things. So one regarding COVID, that people aren't really thinking about. But, you know, there's been lots of like talk about the people on the front lines who we all are thankful for, who have continued to like keep us running, keep us going. And so even there's commercials online, or I mean on TV and online, about the men and women, the doctors, the nurses, who the postmen who are, you know, doing their jobs and keeping us afloat. But no one mentioned the tower climbers. And why I say that is because we wouldn't be able to have this call right now. We wouldn't have been able to stay connected via Zoom calls, house party, you know, cell phone conversation, text messaging with our family who weren't with us during the quarantine without cell service. And that cell service is only made possible when a man or woman climbs a tower. And so COVID made me feel like I already knew I was doing something that was important, but it made me realize like, this is really important. Functioning as a country if we didn't have tower climbers, because those men and women continue to climb throughout all of this to make sure that we had the service that we needed to carry on. Nothing works without cell phone service. Nothing works without climbers. Not our internet, not Wi-Fi, not service, nothing. So COVID really reassured to me that I was on the right path, and this was the film that I needed to make. Regarding sort of the social climate, the political climate, the injustices that are happening, I said to someone recently, what happened to George Floyd, as horrific as it was, the only way that we see even a glimmer of hope that there will be justice was because there were men and women recording, and there was cell phone footage that it was indisputable. We couldn't dispute that, right? It was there. We had men and women with their phones recording, and that footage is what has these officers arrested. Again, that takes me back to, we would not have that ability. The justice for him would not even be plausible without the men and women who climbed. So again, it just reassures me that these men and women are essential to our life in more ways than one. And we all need to rally around, you know, advocating for better working conditions for them, for safer working conditions for them. Not climbers. They weren't climbers. They were cell technicians were recently shot to death while working at a cell site. They were outside in a shelter. A man walked up, shot both of them, executed them, and that's it. These men and women who are providing the service for us to live are losing their lives, and no one is talking about it. Like, something needs to happen.
Man, that's Tisha. You just really opened up just my mind as far as that goes. Because of course, you never hear about it.
You don't hear about it.
These are the really the frontline workers that have been pushed aside.
That's right.
So it's just very good for you to kind of deliver this sort of perspective, because obviously with COVID-19 we need their help, we need their services.
Absolutely.
And you really hit the nail on the head. We definitely have to keep bringing awareness to this. Now, as we begin to wrap up, looking back, with everything going on and kind of where the progress you made with High and where things are going now, would you change a thing looking back, or do you feel like everything kind of happened the way it was supposed to?
No, I don't think I change anything. I think things happen the way that they're supposed to happen, I think.
Mm-hmm.
High came about after my dad died, and I was really in a really bad place. I was a new mom. My daughter was 10 months old when my dad passed away. Mm-hmm. My dad was my life. And then I heard this really horrific story of a tower climber who was beheaded while working. And High sort of saved me, like in a very weird way. It sort of allowed me to sort of escape my own sadness and delve into this injustice that was happening. Because when I heard this terrible story about one climber who was beheaded, a cable snapped, he was beheaded, his body hung in a harness for 5 hours before rescue could come and get it down. He had 4 little boys without a father. He was 27 years old, disgusting, right? So I hear this story and I'm like, this can't possibly be true. Then I find out there's been other climbers who have been decapitated while working from a cable. He wasn't the first. And so High really, I feel like it has saved me. I just feel like it made me open my eyes to stop being ungrateful and taking for granted certain things. And we take for granted, when you don't have service, you're like, well, I don't have service. What's going on? It made me really stop and look at things differently. So I think that things happened the way that they were meant to happen, and I wouldn't change anything.
Man, well put, well said. Now, where can our listeners find out, and viewers actually, Career Pros Podcast 4 years ago did start out as audio only on my phone.
Oh,
now we're doing video. So
awesome.
Our listeners and viewers out there who will be watching this, where can they find out more info? Obviously, you talked about www.highthemovement.com.
Right.
Are there any other initiatives or links, anything we can use to look up more and stay and keep following?
Yeah, so also on Facebook and Instagram. So on Instagram, it's high_the_film_ I think it's high_the film. And then also it's Tisha_the_writer _director on Instagram. And then you can just, on Facebook, it's just my name, Tisha Robinson-Daly, and that will actually link you to 3 other Facebook pages. There's a High merch page where you can get High merchandise, which is very cool. Awesome. And then there's the High Climber Story page, and then also High the film and documentary page. So all of that is on Instagram.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry, all that's on Facebook, not Instagram, Facebook.
Okay, great. And also, too, what I want to start, promoting a little bit more is that even though I started this podcast 4 years ago, kind of just to interview different people from different fields, I did last year start a Career Post Podcast Alumni Network, private Facebook group. So now, congratulations, Tisha, you're an official alum.
I love it. Thank you.
So this is a group of everybody who was a past guest. So I'll add you on there after this interview. And once again, everybody, feel free to connect. It's kind of a community we're growing. So you're more than welcome to post updates of what you got going on in that group, and
I love it.
like that, and then connect
Thank
with us
you
from there.
so much.
Yep. So just be on the lookout for that.
I will. Thank you.
Now, finally, Tisha, as we wrap here, tell me a little bit about what legacy means to you and how you want your particular legacy to be remembered.
I know, like in my heart and in my mind, that I will not see the change that I want to happen in my lifetime. I know that real change takes time, and that it's very likely that I won't. But I hope that my 8-year-old daughter sees it in hers, and I hope that she remembers that her mom was someone who stood up for change and who stood up for the people who didn't have a voice, and was okay with standing on the edge and shouting maybe a not popular message. I want people to know that I cared, and that it mattered to me that right was right and that wrong was taken care of and resolved. I don't know, like I don't need like the fame, but I just want it to be right. And I think that, like, as humans, we all want to be treated equally and to be treated and to be valued. And there are many groups of people who want to be valued and who want to be treated equal. And tower climbers happen to be the group of people that I really stand behind. And I hope that one day there is a change for them, and that when that change comes, that someone looks back and thinks about, this woman who, lived in Pennsylvania, who spent her hours just sort of like yelling for people to pay attention, when most of the time it feels like no one is paying attention. But I cared, and I just hope that that's what my daughter can tell people, and that's what people remember, is that I cared.
Oh, man, well said. Well, we're going to leave it right at that. Everybody, thank you for tuning in to the 6th episode. Oh, yeah, and thanks for, coming aboard, Tisha. Once again, the one and only Tisha Robinson-Daly. Stop by the Career Pulse Podcast, Season 3, the quarantine episodes. So definitely look out for this on the Hayward Crawford YouTube channel, as well as Instagram. So definitely be on the lookout. You can follow at #CareerPulsePodcast. Follow at #CareerPulsePodcast on Instagram. All right, Tisha, welcome to the Alumni Club. And
Thank you.
Look out for this episode in the next few days. And you enjoy the rest of your weekend, okay?
You as well. Take care.
Take care.
All right, bye-bye.